Alright, everyone. Hello and welcome to Cupcakes and Hot Takes with Maral and John. I'm Maral.
And I'm John.
And today we're reviewing Lord of the Rings, Two Towers.
Yes.
The second of the epic trilogy in Middle-earth.
Yes.
Synopsis. Let's see. We join Frodo and Samwise as they continue their adventure, and the other team of the Fellowship are separated but doing their own adventures in Middle-earth as they get closer to Mordor.
Yeah.
Would you say that's about it?
Yeah.
They're just a little closer this time.
Yeah, they're split up a bit. They're trying to... Well, Sam and Frodo are on their own. Mm-hmm. Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, are running after trying to save Merry and Pippin.
Mm-hmm. Who've been captured by orcs. Uruk-hai, specifically.
Yeah, and then so this is... Yeah, without spoiling. Yeah.
What are the Two Towers, John? Saruman's tower?
Saruman and Sauron.
And Sauron are the Two Towers?
Yes.
Interesting. Alright, well, let's move into the intro. You want to give them a little...
Alright.
Spiel?
So just a reminder, with this trilogy, we are watching the theatrical release first. And that's what we'll be mainly focusing on during the podcast. And at the end, we will be going over the extended scenes. The scenes that did not make the initial cut. So with that said, let's start with first. It was released in December 19th in 2002. Also, again, directed by Peter Jackson. Another runtime of 3 hours, just like the previous movie. The extended scenes do add 44.
2 hours, 59 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours, 59 minutes.
Didn't want to do 3 hours, huh? I said it's under 3 hours, okay?
Yep. This time around, the extended scenes had an extra 44 minutes. Where in the Fellowship, they only added about an extra 30.
It's a lot of extended scenes.
Yeah. This one had a $94 million budget, and it made $947.5 million in the box office.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, it's adapted from, the work of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
When did he write those? In the early 1900s?
No, I want to say the Two Towers the trilogy came out in the 50s.
50s?
Yeah.
After the war?
Yeah, I mean, he fought in World War I.
Yeah.
He did not fight in World War II. Yeah. So I believe it came out in the 50s. We might have to do a blurb on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Alright, sounds good. My grade on it is going to be also, a 9.0. 0.1 lower than Fellowship.
Oh, that's interesting, because you said this was your favorite one.
I know, this is my favorite
Okay.
one. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily better.
Yeah. I'm going to have to give this one just a 8.9 cupcakes
That's
out of 10.
a lot less cupcakes.
Yeah.
This
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the movie. But it definitely had a lot more flaws, issues.
For sure.
And so like 8.9, B+. Fun fact, Rotten Tomatoes actually gives this one a 95%, which is the highest percentage grade amongst the trilogy.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess Rotten Tomatoes also likes Two Towers the best.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Though.
Which makes no sense to me. Even you are willing to give it a lower grade than the Fellowship.
Right.
Even though it's your favorite. So,
Fellowship just has this je ne sais quoi to it. It captured the magic.
Yeah, Fellowship is my personal favorite of the three.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it has the most magic to it.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I was shocked that Two Towers got the highest grade by Rotten Tomatoes. But y'all,
what are you gonna do?
If any of y'all are consistent listeners to this podcast, you know my gripe with Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, he is.
But yeah. Let's go on to the awards.
Please, take it away, John.
Yeah. So for the 75th Academy Awards, it was nominated for 6 awards, which is less than half of Fellowship, and it only won 2.
But it came immediately after.
Yeah, 1 year later.
1 whole year later.
Yeah. So the 2 that it won was Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects. Which
you can't beat the visual effects.
Yeah, it's hard to contest with that. But things it was nominated for. It was nominated for Best Picture. The winner that year was Chicago, the musical.
Never seen it. Heard good things.
You haven't seen it? It's interesting. Not not the best thing in the world.
I have a love-hate relationship with musicals.
Yeah.
I love them and I hate them.
But other nominations that year were Gangs of New York, The Hours, and The Pianist.
Some good movies.
Yeah. I personally, out of those, thought The Pianist should have won
For Best Picture.
for Best Picture that year.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think Chicago should have won out of those,
No.
for sure.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of other movies that came out that year.
Yeah.
Do you want to list them?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a plethora of movies that came out. Just a few, some of the movies that came out that year. Not as exciting as the year The Fellowship came out, but
Still a good year.
Yeah, we got Catch Me If You Can, Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Star Wars 2, Scooby-Doo the live action, City of God, Minority Report, The Count of Monte Cristo, Reign of Fire, 28 Days Later, the first Resident Evil movie live action, Lilo and Stitch, Born Identity, The First Ring, well, the American version that is, Ice Age, Signs, Treasure Planet, Cabin Fever, The Time Machine, Bend It Like Beckham, and Hero starring Jet Li.
Lots of series began that year.
Yeah.
Like half of these ended up becoming a series.
Yeah. I will say I personally love Hero with Jet Li. I love that movie.
Well, you saw me do finger guns for Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
I love me some Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. But other things it was nominated for was Best Art Direction. Chicago won it. Best Film Editing, which Chicago also won. And then Best Sound, which, again,
I can't
Chicago
imagine a musical was this good. Listen, there's decent musicals, but I don't know about Best Art Direction.
I mean, I will say overall, the competition was weaker that year, in my opinion.
These are a lot of, fun films that year.
Yeah, they're definitely fun.
But not, critically acclaimed.
Yeah, not good.
Not great.
Yeah, Chicago is decent.
Okay.
It's worth a watch.
We'll give it a watch. Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? They still won 2 awards. It's better than 0.
Yeah. Like I said, this is the one least nominated, least one out of the trilogy.
Wait till we get to Return of the King.
Yeah, that's going to be a long list.
We're going to be talking about the awards for a minute.
Yeah. But you wanted to add anything else regarding our awards?
No. That's all I have.
All right. Well, this is where we like to take a break and thank our only sponsor. If there's anyone else out there that would like to sponsor us.
We'll take another one.
Yes, we'll take as many as possible, as long as they are within view of our morals and ethics. It is Bakery Park, a small bakery in the Schaumburg-Hoffman Estates, Chicago's suburbs area. If
The cupcake half of the cupcakes and hot takes.
Mm-hmm.
And today we have some cupcakes. Do we want to talk about these cupcakes?
Yeah, go ahead.
So today's cupcakes, and I'll give you a little close-up, is, I like to call it, a red sun rises, blood has been spilt tonight, cupcakes. They are a red whipped cream with a fun red surprise in the center. Take a bite, let me know what you think. And per usual, it's a vanilla cupcake, but...
You said it's filled inside, right?
It is filled
okay,
inside.
so I can't
Don't do the
sandwich
sandwich method,
okay.
no.
Oh. It's bleeding. What is
So
that?
if you've seen the film, Legolas says that famous line because the Uruk-hai had been slain by the riders.
Spoiler alert.
Oh shit. Sorry about that. Well, this is the spoiler alert territory anyway, right?
Not yet.
Just about.
Just about, but...
So yeah, the cupcakes are bleeding for that scene. I'm excited for next...
I ate it all.
You liked it, I assume? You ate that really quick.
Got crumbs all over me.
They got their treats. What do they want?
Mm. You know Baron's got a sweet tooth.
Who knows? What do you think? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked last week's better, personally.
Yeah, with the champagne?
Or not the frosting. I like this one's frosting better.
Okay.
not the biggest fan of the strawberry filling.
It's raspberry filling.
Or raspberry filling, sorry. I mean, I just not a big fan of raspberries.
I know.
So.
It's more about the idea.
Yeah.
Concept.
Yeah. So again, if you'd like to order any type of baked treats, the bakery that Maral runs specializes in pies. But as you can see from these cupcakes, she can do lots and many different things.
Yeah, we can coordinate something together to come up with a fun idea, or you can just tell me what to make and I'll make it.
Yeah. The link to the bakery is in the description below.
And with that, let's get back into the podcast.
Yeah.
We're in spoiler alert territory, if you didn't hear earlier. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want it to get spoiled, pause right now, give it a 3-hour watch, and come right back.
Yes. I will say, again, if you want to get into fantasy, this is the trilogy to start to really get into any type of fantasy. So, yeah.
And if you're gonna watch it, you may as well watch the extended. You're already giving up several hours of your life.
Yeah.
The extended is just another 45 minutes. Just do it. It's great.
All right. I will say, before we dive in, it's one thing me personally, where I'm really trying to avoid is not repeating what was said in the previous one for Fellowship. For those of you that don't know, all 3 movies were filmed at the same time. Sometimes, they would just jump around from scenes from different movies. Say they were supposed to film outside for a scene in the first movie, but it was raining. Then they'd be like, all right, let's go inside and film a scene from the third movie, right? So it's all in the same editing, the same prosthetics, the same
crew
setup, so
it's not your usual series.
Yeah, so everything we said in the first movie about all the great editing and forced perspective and all that still applies in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll try not to repeat ourselves, and our last episode was on the longer side. So with that said, let's move on.
Yeah.
We start the scene where Gandalf and the Balrog are fighting. Basically, Gandalf has not died at this point. He's actually continues fighting the Balrog in a different area. And, real quick question. As they're fighting, they're like running up a mountain. Where are they?
Yeah, so how they get on top of the mountain, for those of you that aren't...
Are they in like another realm?
No, so what happens is they're fighting, and the Balrog is losing, and he actually tries to run away, and Gandalf chases him down.
He runs away all the way up a mountain?
So, yeah, they're running through the tunnels of Moria,
Okay.
and eventually they get out of the tunnels, and the Balrog ends up trying to run up a mountain, and Gandalf is chasing him up the mountain, and then that's how eventually they get all the way up top of that mountain. They were fighting, and the Balrog were trying to run away, and Gandalf was just chasing him down, which wasn't really well explained.
I'm imagining like that when they're like running around Moria. Because it's a 4-day walk through Moria, they said. And they didn't go through the way from which Frodo and, because the bridge has been broken.
Yeah.
So that's a long chase scene.
Yeah. I forget how long the battle lasted. It was definitely a few days, a while.
Okay.
But, keep in mind, he's a wizard and that's a demon, so they got energy to spare.
Yeah.
So,
spoiler, Gandalf's not dead. So with that, we get into,
I mean, he does die.
Well,
at the end of his fight with the Balrog. And he comes back to life.
Well, he's not dead forever.
Well, yeah, he comes back to life.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Yeah, just moving on, again, trying not to repeat ourselves. Like, the editing was well done for the most part. The pacing was something Maral and I kind of had an issue with this movie. In the first one, just that one part of the movie and the pacing was kind of bad. This one, for the most part, was kind of the same. There's this one part of the movie, but it was a very bad place to have pacing issues. Right in the battle, and when they're fighting and Helm's Deep, just keep going back and forth from like, yeah, it's fighting, and all of a sudden the Ents. We have just decided you're not orcs. It's like, okay, like how are you gonna cut the hype and the fighting with such a boring anticlimactic?
So much action and like things happening, and then the Ents like are written to be boring, right? So why would you cut that scene with something that's already meant to be boring and slow?
Yeah, like what I think they're trying to do is like cut the tension of the battle, right, and give the audience like give them a chance to breathe.
Let there be tension.
Right, but yeah, just no one wanted it to stop. Everyone was enjoying it.
The Battle of Helm's Deep is badass.
Yeah,
it's my favorite battle scene.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest cinematic fighting scenes, in the history of cinema, in my opinion.
Because there's the battle at Gondor.
Yeah, Pelennor Field. Yeah.
But I don't like it as much.
No, yeah, it's not as well done. I mean, it's a lot more massive. I mean, we'll get
right. The scale is more massive. I think the Battle of Helm's Deep is the most interesting, dynamic battle. I think it's the most exciting. And then it's just loses all its pace, and it's like, why do I care about these Ents and what they're gonna do? And then the fact that the decision the Ents even decide to come up with gets reversed, like all of that scene gets undone and becomes useless, like 10 minutes later, and it's like, what was the point of all that?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like I said, you can argue that it was like Merry and Pippin convincing the Ents. And, like,
it wasn't.
Yeah, because, Pippin had the idea of,
they had to see it for themselves.
Yeah, like showing the Ents how bad it is, you know. So, they came up with that idea. But, yeah, it was not well done.
Had nothing to do with the meeting of the Ents, though.
Correct, yeah.
So. And they could have cut those scenes with more Sam and Frodo scenes.
Yeah.
But no, they specifically chose Merry and Pippin scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, but going on, something more this is really nitpicky. But sound editing was better than the first one.
Yeah.
I wasn't messing with the volume button as much.
Yeah.
Something else that I thought could have been a little bit better in regard to cinematography was, in this one more than the first one that I noticed, when they're doing like those large pan shots of like landscapes and like scenery, the camera's shaking a lot. I don't know if you noticed that.
How do you think they did it? Helicopter?
Yeah, helicopter, yeah.
Okay. I mean, they did it better the first time. They should have been able to do it.
Yeah. I don't know what changed. Like I said, they filmed everything concurrently and mixed up, so. But again, those are very nitpicky things. But, wherever there's bad, usually, there's good. This one had plenty of good. If you want
It had great goods.
Yeah.
It had some epic scenes, like when Gandalf comes on the 4th day, when he says, we'll look to the 5th day, sorry. And he comes over the mountaintop, like, were those mountains edited, or do you know if that's actual New Zealand topography?
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Because it looks like it's not real. So that the visual effects were pretty great. And I'm pretty sure all the horses were CGI'd in. I'm pretty sure a lot of the Uruk-hai were CGI'd in because they just didn't have the staff and the extras enough, so they had to, CGI them in. All the visual effects really stood up. I don't think there's a single scene where the visual effects I was like, that doesn't look good anymore. You know what I mean? The Ents looked good because they were robotics.
Yeah.
And that looked great. All the Ents looked great. Saruman's castle looked great. Let's see. All the Uruk-hai battle scenes looked awesome.
Yeah. I mean, before we get into more of that,
the visual effects.
Well, it's like positives of the movie. I was hoping you'd go in order and talk about the acting and casting of the.
Sorry, the cinematography led me straight into visual.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so most of the cast is the same from if we go into casting and acting. Obviously, most of the cast is the same. One thing I will say, I guess it's kind of trivia, fun fact. When they're running cross-country, Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn, all three of the actors were injured, and they were still running around, like, full gear. I think Gimli's armor weighed 60 pounds, because Aragorn's actor had broken his toe. I think Gimli had broken a few ribs. And
No, Legolas is Orlando Bloom broke a few ribs.
Oh, Orlando Bloom
And
broke ribs.
Gimli's stunt double had an issue with his knee.
So yeah, like those guys, they were doing it. Even though they were fully injured, they really committed to everything. They did a great job. And then there was a new actor. Well, not necessarily new, but an actor that was much more featured. Andy Serkis as Gollum. You want to talk about that?
Yes. But before we get into that, I would like to talk about the other new characters that were introduced in this movie.
Oh, okay. So there's the King of Rohan.
Yeah.
There's what's her name?
Eowyn.
Eowyn.
Let's see, Faramir.
Faramir.
Eomer. That's one thing I didn't like about
Too many similar names.
Tolkien. A lot of names are similar. Arwen, Eowyn,
Yeah.
Eomer, Faramir, Boromir. I mean, Faramir and Boromir, I guess they're brothers, so that makes sense. But just in general, there's a lot of names were way too similar. But yeah, I thought all those other characters, new characters, I thought were casted very well.
Faramir looks like Boromir, which I appreciate.
Yeah, which makes sense and something.
I mean,
I'm sure
they're
went
brothers,
for.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying they did a good job casting him. He does look like Boromir, and I appreciate that. And we can talk more about the father because he's kind of. I don't think in the theatrical version he's in it.
He's not in the theatrical version.
So we can talk about that in Return of the King. Technically, he's in it in the extended version. Stop.
Okay, yeah. But kind of circling back to Andy Serkis being Gollum / Smeagol.
The best new character.
Yeah.
Added.
I think Andy Serkis was robbed of an Oscar. The reason why he wasn't allowed to be nominated for an Oscar was because they said it's motion capture and it's not really him on the screen. Even though
they use the dots and
they use the dots suit and everything. Even though he did all the movements, he did all the voices, his facial expressions were used. That was him.
Yeah. I'd say that was 98% him.
Like, I mean, I guess you can say,
that was he was crawling around.
Yeah, he was crawling around on rocks and everything. I mean, I guess you can go away with, like, he'll forever be known as the father of, like, motion capture of what it is today.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he definitely should have won an Oscar for his role as Gollum. And the Academy Awards, being as stupid as they are, robbed him of it. Hey, stop that.
Here, come sit with me.
Ooh! Sorry, our corgi is acting up. Kind of bother one of our cats.
Poor thing, she's all wet from her
Captain
spit everywhere.
But yeah, anything else you want to add to the characters, the acting, the cast?
I'd say besides Andy Serkis, my favorite is the King of Rohan. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too many other people. Like I said, it was mainly just the main cast.
Okay, yeah. You want to break that up?
She'll figure it out. Alright, let's talk about our negatives, things we didn't like in the film.
Yeah.
Although we've sort of been sprinkling them in as we
Yeah,
talk.
but now we're going to go into the whole lot of...
Full on
what we didn't like. One thing is, right in the beginning when, the Merry and Pippin are trying to escape into Fangorn Forest, and there's that one orc that's trying to kill Merry, right?
to eat him.
Yeah, to eat him. He's literally hovering over him, right, with his sword. Like, go ahead, squeal, And then, that's when Treebeard wakes up, right? And he stomps on him, right? Who's literally hovering right over him. But when he stomps on him, he's like 3 feet, 4 feet behind him all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, when you pointed that out, I was like, oh my god, I never noticed that.
Yeah, it's like, it'd be one thing they showed Mary, like, moving away or something,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my, what was that?
Maybe that's another deleted scene.
No, not that I know of. Like I said, just the attention to detail for the second one was just so off.
Less.
Yeah, they just didn't seem to care. There's,
I feel like it's just mainly because they just had so many other things they were working on.
Yeah.
They're being pulled too many directions. There's a lot of good things to filming simultaneously, and there's some drawbacks.
Yeah, I suppose.
Pulled too many directions.
Before we get to the second point, I want to stay with the overlooked details aspect.
Okay.
Like, some of these are explained in the extended scenes, but for people that didn't watch the extended scenes, people that saw it in the theaters, when, the Uruk-hai are running away from, or have Merry and Pippin with them, right? And then, they stop to rest, and, they get a fire going, meat's back on the menu, boys, that scene. Where did the orcs come from? They were just a group of Uruk-hai, and then all of a sudden there's orcs with them.
Yep.
Another thing that's also that again, it's explained in the extended scenes. The orcs do meet up with them. But something else that isn't there is Brago. No one will know who Brago is, and if they just saw the theatrical release, that's the horse that finds Aragorn after Aragorn gets tossed over the cliff.
Some horse just shows up.
Yeah, just some horse shows up and he calls him by his name, Brago. No one would know who that was if it wasn't for, they didn't read the books or, watch the extended movie or edition. Let's see. When the elves show up at Helm's Deep, Haldir is there, right? And he says, Elrond sends elves, but Elrond is the leader of Rivendell. And Haldir and all the elves are from Lothlorien, which are two different realms. Like, Elrond can't command elves from a different, kingdom, basically.
And very far away from each other.
Yeah, very far away. So it's like, why would Elrond send elves? Just a detail that was overlooked. They could have easily just said, Galadriel, or, just any of them from Lothlorien, or Galadriel's husband, whatever, I forget his name off the top of my head, but yeah, just for some reason they're like, yeah, Elrond decided to send us.
Maybe they were like, it's easier to just say Elrond than Galadriel. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a couple more things regarding details. Aragorn, right? So when Haldir dies, right, Aragorn climbs up the wall and catches him as he dies, and then Aragorn realizes, oh no, I gotta escape. And he rides a ladder down, right? But the ladder's on the wrong side of the wall. Why is the ladder inside the wall?
It's just not likely that they pulled it up or anything. Maybe it's one of their ladders?
No, that makes even less sense because they have stairs.
I don't know, John.
He punches the orc and rides down the ladder, and the ladder's on the wrong side of the wall.
I don't know.
Yeah. And, one last thing about overlooking detail is, even though despite that you see a lot of people at the end of the battle, right, run into that small room where the throne is, when they show the throne again, including a lot of elves that survived during the battle, if you look at the background, right, the characters running around, and then when they show the actual room, there's only 10 people still alive.
Yeah, it was really weird. They made a decision.
Yeah, they clearly show a lot more people surviving. But again, for some reason, they only have 10 people left in the room. Unless you're telling me all the soldiers decided to just go to the caves for some reason, which makes no sense. But, granted, that's probably because, just a difference from the book to the movie is there were no elves that showed up at the Battle of Helm's Deep. It was just the 300 humans, which might also explain the Overlook about Elrond.
300, huh?
Yeah, just 300 people.
Referencing the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if that was an actual reference or not.
Well, he took a lot of things from history.
Yeah,
It's
he
possible.
did. Yeah, it's possible. But, you know, Peter Jackson realized, okay, this is going to make a crappy battle scene if it's just 300 people. So we got to throw in some more units into the...
You said he also did it because he didn't want it to look like only the humans were fighting Mordor's armies, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh. Maybe I read it somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't say that, but... So yeah, but basically the elves weren't there, so that would might explain why there's so few... Well, no elves survived whatsoever at the end other than Legolas. And there's no... You know, there's only like 10 people in the room. So, you know, again, it's a lot about, you know, paying attention. If you're going to change something, you got to stay consistent and stay with the details.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm all for changing things from the source material if it's to enhance the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. The battle would have been really dumb with just 300 humans against 10,000, or, you know, Uruk-hai.
Yeah, it was 10,000.
Yeah, but, so, you know, that was a great change. But again, you gotta stay and, you know, keep with the details going, you know? But yeah, so, yeah, but that's, I'll take a pause if you wanna talk about some of the more negatives. Yeah, I feel like I'm just taking away the podcast again.
Yeah, there's another problem that I thought was funny. I did never realize it until this watch through, which is probably like my 8th time watching Lord of the Rings. Aragorn at the beginning of the chase with the Uruk-hai, like, feels the ground, right? Because he's
Tracking.
no, his group. He's a Dunedain,
Yeah.
right? A ranger. Would you just eat it on the carpet, please? Because he's a ranger of Dunedain, right? And so he's tracking them. And he's like, the Uruk-hai are a day's run away, and they've quickened their pace. Because the Uruk-hai can feel, like, the men chasing them, right?
No, the Uruk-hai can smell them.
Could smell them, sorry. So he can literally feel them from a day's pace away, right? By touching the earth. But he couldn't feel an entire squadron of riders of Rohan on horses, like 500 yards away. 500 yards away.
Oh crap, horses are coming at you on the rock!
They're literally right there. And Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas are on the hilltop. And they get surrounded by the riders of Rohan out of nowhere. They're like, oh, how did this happen? And I'm like, how did this happen?
Maybe he was too distracted with the Uruk-hai.
The red sun rises.
Yeah.
So, that was annoying. I was like, what? Anyway. Oh, also, Aemir has a terrible wig.
Yes.
I hate it. It looks so bad. Which is sad because Faramir has a good wig. Legolas has a good wig. Clearly they have good wigs. Why does Aemir have such a terrible
I don't know.
wig? They just put it on him. There's no, like, what's it called? Lacing?
Yeah.
On the edges to make it look realistic. It's just, like, right there. And just, it looks terrible.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided just him. Just him!
Just that guy has a bad wig. And you know what trope I hate, John?
What?
The trope of this guy is really evil and has done a lot of bad to this kingdom, but we're gonna let him live because he's done enough damage. Enough blood has been spilt on his account. You know, we're not gonna kill him today. And then he runs off and he does even more damage. He wreaks more havoc for later in the plot. He's kept alive for plot value and no other reason.
I hate that too, but I will say, in regards to this
Aragorn
series,
kills all the time. Why doesn't he kill that guy?
Like I said, I will say, in regards to this specific series, you gotta remember, Lord of the Rings was like one of the first to do any of this. So this was the first, like really one of the first times where you see something like this happen.
I guess.
So, in Lord of the Rings' defense, they were the first.
And tying into that, I also hate bad guy has a bad guy name. And everyone's like, how could we have known that he was a bad guy? Grima Wormtongue?
Again, Maral. I was just complaining about the names earlier, right? Like another set of names I hate. Why? Again, that's so similar. Saruman and Sauron.
Yeah.
You know,
hate that.
like I said, the names could have been a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, look at all these fantastical names that he came up with on the fly, and then Wormtongue.
Yeah.
Wormtongue.
I mean, like I said, some of the names are so great and unique, and some of them are just
basic,
bad.
Yeah.
Like he calls the whole planet Middle Earth. I mean, bro. So.
I'm thinking he got some inspiration from like Norse mythology.
Yes, he did.
Midgard.
Yeah, that's where the like the dwarves and all those come from. Yeah.
See, yeah. So I get it. I'm okay with that. But like I said, the trope of let's let the bad guy live and plot protect him so he can do more bad things later on.
Yeah.
And then we kill him later on in that time. Hate it.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Alright, I'm gonna take back over a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I hated is like Legolas being so extra. I mean, you see it in the next movie too, and this movie.
Legolas is just extra.
It's like, why? They just like, let's make him extra, right?
Because he's cool and he's an elf.
Like, I mean,
he's
so
Orlando Bloom.
Like examples of this is like when he's fighting in the Edoras, the king castle of Rohan, and they're like fist fighting, and Legolas does a back fist, and hits him. I hate when, just in general, when people do that in movies.
You just get so little power.
It's just so useless of a move, and so impractical, and realistically, you'd never be able to do it.
There's this one film, and I forget what it was, but this girl is like a kung fu master, and she does a scorpion kick where her back leg comes over and hits someone over her head and hits them in the head, and I was like, that is the most unpractical move, but it looks awesome.
Bruce Lee did that too.
Oh, yeah?
I believe the GameOfDeath. Yeah, I think he's in this scene. He's fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yeah.
And he does a scorpion kick.
So what's happening is right, like Bruce Lee's like on the ground, like on all fours, right, and there's like a spike right in front of his, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trying to push down his head into the spike, right?
Okay.
And Bruce Lee's like holding it, right, and then he lifts up his legs and
okay, at least there's a reason.
Yeah, at least there's a reason for that. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why Bruce Lee had to lift both legs, but and then again, I guess to reach.
Yeah, to flip over, I think. But yeah, no, this girl was standing up. Her enemy was standing up, and she just brings her leg over for no. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of times where people have a concept they want to do, and they force it on a scene, and it's just completely unnecessary. So I think the person who was doing what's it called? The moves.
The choreography.
The
fight choreography.
Yeah. I think the choreographer just really wanted someone to do the fancy moves.
Someone else who does the back fisting is Rafiki from Lion King.
Yeah, he does do the.
Yeah, Lion King is also on our list. So
we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, we'll talk about it again. But just wanted to give it.
But at least it's an animated film where.
Yeah, that's supposed to be like
silly
and comedic. Yeah. Other times when he's being really extra, I hate when right before like the Battle of Helm's Deep actually begins, and like I said, underneath their like shoulder and like their neck is where their armor is weak. Dude, that's like every set of armor that's ever existed in the history of mankind. Like, obviously, you're not talking to, like, I thought he was talking to like another elf warrior. Like, it'd be one thing if he was talking to like one of the humans that have like never been in a battle. But these are elven warriors. It's like, obviously, why would he not know that?
Maybe that line was written before he decided to add the elves and it fell through. I don't know.
Then why is he saying it in Elvish?
Does he say it in Elvish?
Yeah, he says it in Elvish.
I don't know then at that point.
Let's see. Like two more things and I'll let go of this. When he's riding on the shield down the
I was going to say, I'm okay with that one.
That's the most okay one.
I'm okay with the shield one.
That's the most okay
It's the fastest way to go down the stairs.
Yeah. And this one always makes me mad when I see it, okay? It's so the battle is ending, right? The Uruk-hai broke into the main gate and they're flooding into the keep, right? And there's like this tiny bridge that can only fit like 1% at a time. I don't know why it was designed that way. And Legolas decides to, and it's like a funnel, right? People are trying to escape with their lives and live, and it's like a bottleneck. And Legolas is just standing there to kill like 2 more Urukine, slowing everyone down.
People trying to escape.
Yeah,
with
people are
their
trying to
lives.
escape. Like, he's probably the reason why there were so few people in that room at the end. Like, he straight up is part of the cause of like 10 deaths right there.
He was trying to beat Gimli's number.
No, that was so dumb.
But don't you think, though, psychologically, like, the prince of an elven lord absolutely would let a bunch of men die so he could beat a dwarf with his numbers game?
I understand, like, that, but I don't think he'd do it at that cost.
I don't know.
Also,
he's
we'll
spoiled.
get to the count later in the extended scene. That's something else that always bothers me. But
Okay.
again, we'll get there later.
Alright,
Yeah. You want to go talk about anything else negative?
No,
or?
I got nothing else negative to. No hot takes left.
One thing, random, really small, but they did so much work to reinforce that gate at Helm's Deep, only for it to be broken like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I hate that.
Like, Aragorn and Gimli, like, risked their lives on that bridge and fought.
They're like, how much time can you give us?
As long as you can, or how much time do you need? As long as you can give me. Right, and they reinforced it, right, to the point where they're like, okay, get out of there. And then 5 minutes later, boosh.
Also, how come they only had one bomb guy?
Bomb guy?
Yeah, I feel like they could have also bombed the door down.
I mean,
I'm sure they had the battering ram.
they thought the battering ram probably would have been enough. I mean, it was enough.
It was enough.
I mean, if Gimli and Aragorn never went there to the bridge, then,
Yeah.
it definitely would have been enough. But yeah, I think the main objective
But I love that
taking the
bomb
wall
guy.
down, yeah. Yeah, talk about purpose-driven life. It's like this, it reminds me of that troll in The Hobbit. It's like, they're like in the big fight scene in the last movie of like Battle of 5 Armies. And there's like this one troll with a giant like triangle on his head.
Yeah.
He just like sprints at the wall and headbutts the wall and knocks it down and he's knocked out. He's like, bam, just lays on the floor. That man served his purpose.
He knew what he was about,
Yeah.
and he did his duty.
Yeah. But yeah.
Also, that guy had traps for days.
Yeah, that guy was jacked. He was a berserker.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
But now we can move on to the good stuff.
Yeah.
There's still good stuff.
Yeah, plenty of good stuff. Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure. Like I said, Andy Serkis was just amazing. Like, genuinely, he played. There's a lot of people that play mental illness and like split personalities, and it's not easy to pull off, right? Andy Serkis does it in the most extra way doesn't feel extra. You know what I mean? Like, he puts a lot of flavor and pizzazz into it, and it's very extra, but it still feels natural and realistic at the same time because he's portraying the split between Gollum and Sméagol.
Yeah. I will say that's one of my favorite scenes in all the trilogy. When, excuse me, I need to blow my nose.
Go for it.
Sorry, this is gonna be loud.
When Gollum is fighting with himself and going back and forth.
Yeah, and that's the scene when like
That's
Sméagol
great
and Gollum
editing.
are fighting.
That's
yeah,
great
editing. And it was like great interaction between just like himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene is like one of my favorite scenes. So well done. Very,
Have you
he's
seen
telling him to
Andy
go away.
Serkis doing it like without all the visual effects on him?
I haven't.
Doing that scene? It's great. You should
It is?
give it a watch.
Yeah. So again, that was one of my favorite scenes in the trilogy. But
You know what I also love about the trilogy? There were this movie. Oh my god, what should I say? You know what scene I love in this movie? Sorry about that. That's so difficult. It's when Gandalf returns, right? And it's just like a bright, blinding light, and they think it's Saruman. And it sounds like Saruman, but it also sounds like Gandalf. Like, both their voices are actually mixed together for whatever reason. To be mysterious, ambiguous, or is it because he's taking Saruman's power at that point? Because there can only be one white wizard, right? At
Correct,
any
yeah.
given point. So does that mean Saruman has been stripped of his powers, or
Not completely, not yet.
how does that work?
At least in the so when Gandalf confronts Saruman in the movies, in the extended edition of The Return of the King, is when Saruman is officially stripped of the title. Like Saruman still has some powers, but it's being sucked out of him slowly and transferred to Gandalf.
I see. So yeah, that scene kind of depicts both at the same time. You know, it's
Yeah.
like the mystery of like, is it Saruman? Is it Gandalf? But also, it kind of feels to me like Gandalf is becoming Saruman, not in a bad way, in a good way. So I really like that scene a lot. And also, like the first time I watched it, I was like, Gandalf's back, you know. So I don't know. Oh, also, I love Rohan's theme music. The little violin or whatever string instrument they use. It's like if I imagined some horse kingdom out in the country of like some medieval era, that is exactly the theme music I would use. It's beautiful, it's fantastic, it's poignant. And I like that it's just that instrument by itself.
Yeah.
You know, because Rohan's by itself.
Howard Shore did such an amazing job.
It's fantastic.
And just with this musical score, and again, we talked about it in the first one, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and then also I like Gimli's comedic relief. I think it's not forced. I feel like when you watch The Hobbit, the dwarves are kind of just all Gimli.
It's like
mini Gimlis.
And like they like ripped him apart into like
divide him into 8.
Into more than 8. There's
Is there 11? 12? Okay.
11 or 12. I'm pretty sure it's 12.
Let there be a Blair.
And then they like pushed his personality to like the extreme. And
they flanderized him and they cut him in half several times.
So
because you know when they're doing the cross country run, and he's like, oh, "We dwarves are sprinters," you know, and he's just funny. And he cuts the tension in a lot of these scenes, like the Battle of Helm's Deep. He's funny. A lot of these scenes, he just really steals the show in this film, I think.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a lot of screen time in the first one. So in the second one, Gimli really shines. I really enjoy him.
You know, something I love personally was just throughout the film is how natural Frodo's descent is. You know, you still see him struggling, you know, like, and he's trying to struggle more and more and more, and it's very natural, you know, it's not like all of a sudden he's like, oh, you know, and you still see, you know, Frodo, the Hobbit, you know, the good side of him.
And he still has scenes where he's happy.
Yeah, he's still good and happy, and like, you know, and you know, you wonder, is he gonna be okay? You know, you're not like, oh yeah, he's gonna be fucked up and go evil for sure. Like, oh yeah, he's gonna be fine. Yeah, he'll be good. You know, you get that like, oh my god, is he gonna be okay?
Yeah. And you care about him.
Yeah, and you care about him. You're worrying about him, and again, it's so natural and well done. Which again, that's something I really loved. Something else I also loved is how different all the Ents look.
Yeah, they do look very different.
It could have been so easy to make them all look very similar, just been like done with it, right?
All the same type of tree.
Yeah. You know, just keep it very simple, and you know, they didn't have to put in the extra work to make them look so different. You know, it's weird, like certain things they put so much detail in, and other things they're like, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll give that for the visual effects person. You know, they made the Ents look great.
Yeah.
They're all different sizes, different type of trees. Like, some are really gnarly and woody, and some are, like, green.
Yeah.
Also, you know what scene I love?
What?
When they're doing the theme song to Rohan, and they come into Rohan for the first time, the Fellowship. And Eowyn? Yeah, is standing out there, and that flag comes off of the pole.
Mm-hmm.
It's so dramatic and beautiful, and apparently not scripted at all. It just was a windy day that day, and it just happened to blow off while they were filming, and it looked fantastic. I love that scene.
Peter Jackson saw that and was like, we gotta keep that shot.
Yes, same Peter Jackson. He was like, cut. That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what I also love?
What?
Theoden, the king of Rohan. His possessed, evil old man Saruman makeup looks fantastic. I really like it a lot.
Yeah.
He looks like a completely different person when he's unpossessed. He's back to normal.
Yeah. And, you know, kind of like what you're saying with the first movie, it looks natural.
Yeah, it looks realistic.
He looks gross. Doesn't look like that's impossible to achieve.
Yeah. Like, it definitely still looked like him if he were genuinely possessed.
Yeah.
Like, for example, The Exorcist. Love the movie, but the makeup isn't perfect. It doesn't necessarily stand up. Baron, come here. Baron, come here. Makeup doesn't necessarily stand up to this day, you know? The little girl that's possessed, and she's got the green face and her head spins around and stuff, you know? It was amazing for its time, but it doesn't stand up. But that practical effect makeup looks so good. And then the transition when he's turning back into his old self also looked great.
Yeah, and of course the Battle of Helm's Deep itself. Okay.
Like I said, my favorite battle scene.
Yeah.
Would you say it's yours?
Yeah, like I said, I think it really is the greatest battle scene in cinematic history.
Wow.
I can't think of a battle scene that's better. I mean, if you look at like Game of Thrones and what they tried to do at Winterfell, they tried to make another Helm's Deep, but talk about abysmal
I couldn't
crap.
see anything in that.
Yeah, on top of that, just nothing made sense, and it was so ridiculous and dumb, and like they try to repeat it, like it's just horrible.
Which is sad because they had good battle scenes, like when what's the older son's name? He gets his head chopped
Robb
off?
Stark?
Robb Stark. He had some good battle scenes.
No, he doesn't get his head chopped off, does he?
Yeah, he did.
He gets killed at the Red Wedding.
Yeah, they chop his head off and they put the wolf head on.
You're right. Kind of going off of that, something I really appreciate is, talking about the, you couldn't see anything at the Game of Thrones battle. It's like, yeah, I understand that it's nighttime and there's like no moon and it's supposed to be really dark and hard to see.
But nobody wants to see pitch black.
Yeah, no one wants that. Again, you have to like.
It's a show.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings. Battle of Helm's Deep was nighttime. It was dark, but they added enough light so that you could, like, the audience can enjoy and see and watch the battle.
Yeah, no, there was never a scene where I struggled to see what was happening in the Battle of Helm's Deep. It was always readily available to me that I could see everything that was happening.
Yeah, and I think that should be the priority in making a movie. You know, the audience needs to enjoy it.
For sure.
Alright, now the other.
No, he doesn't want to go.
But yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about before we get into the extended scenes?
Oh, no, I think those are my favorite things about this. Samwise is great. Potatoes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the quotes.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Yeah, like, you know me, Samwise is my favorite character from the series. So, always enjoy seeing more of him.
Alright, well, with that said, I think it's time we go into the extended scenes.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to do book differences?
I've talked about, no elves at the battle. Another difference was, the Shelob scene in the third movie was actually in the second book, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 98% sure.
Hold on.
But I believe they wanted to save it for the third movie. Bring go.
I have no idea. She's insane.
But yeah, like I said, yeah, let's just go get on with the extended scenes for our time's sake.
Yeah, sorry about that. Our dog is insane. These puppy months are gonna be difficult. Alright, extended scenes. The first one. Opening.
It's the opening of the movie. Yeah.
Is it the opening?
I mean, after the Gandalf scene.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, this is a weird way to open the scene. So, Samwise wants to save some salt for
He's keeping salt from the Shire.
Yeah.
He brought it all the way.
For some potential roast chicken.
Yeah.
And Frodo is like, roast chicken? But at the same time, he's like, oh, Samwise, nothing ever dampens your spirit, does it?
Yeah, you know, it's a small part of home that even Frodo appreciated.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know...
You gotta have something to look forward to.
Yeah, and again, you know, that shows Frodo being, you know, still not evil.
His old self.
Yeah, his old self.
I don't think he was ever evil, just jaded and broken.
Yeah.
And then also, they're climbing down the rope that Galadriel had given Samwise, which we never see.
Yeah.
Without it.
I mean, we do see a scene when, you know, they capture Gollum and they put the rope around his neck and Gollum's like,
oh yeah, that's right. Nasty elves made it.
Twisted it. But you know,
is that the same rope?
Yeah, that's the same rope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, is there like a magical property to the rope? Because they climb down it and the rope is fine. But then Samwise just like casually tugs on it and it comes.
Yeah, it's like a magical rope. I mean, that's why Gollum feels pain when it's wrapped around him.
So does it just unravel?
I don't know the exact.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Just question. And then, like you were saying, the Uruk-hai meet up with the orcs. At a certain scene.
Yeah. While
they're carrying Merry and Pippin.
Yeah. That's another extended scene, and that explains why orcs are there. You know, when they chop off that one orc's head and meat's back on the menu, boys.
And the meme where everyone's like, that means there's restaurants in Middle-earth for the Uruk-hai.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, other scenes that are, you know, not as significant, I guess, is, you know, the smaller scenes, you know, like Eomer when he finds Theodred, right? That wasn't really. Saruman saying they burned down Fangorn.
The forest.
Yeah, the forest. Yeah. You know, when it's revealed that the Uruk-hai think Merry and Pippin have the ring, very small. You know, it's like that's already assumed. Why else would they bring it?
Well, I think that's one scene that they definitely should have kept is when Aragorn tells Gandalf that Sam's with Frodo, and Gandalf tells Aragorn that Sauron is scared of Aragorn because he's the heir of Numenor. I think it's important, you know, background knowledge. Because we all kind of know that he's going to be the king, or he's supposed to be the king, rather, right? But we don't understand the impact it has on Middle-earth, you know?
Yeah, like even Sauron is scared of him.
Yeah, that means something. That's important, you know?
Yeah. Let's see. You know, there's Eowyn singing at Theodred's funeral. It's nice, but not necessary.
Yeah, she doesn't sing that great either, so.
Saruman discovering that, you know, Gandalf is the White, and Grima tells him about Aragorn's ring and that Aragorn is the heir. And Saruman, that's what the first time the enemy realizes, crap, Aragorn exists.
Yeah, that's something we have to contend with.
Yeah, but then again, Saruman's like, that's a fake. Or, yeah, no way he's actually the heir.
Right. I think that should have been added because it gives more about Gandalf becoming the White and Saruman losing some of his powers. I also think when Eowyn gives that nasty soup to Aragorn should have been kept. Not necessarily because of the nasty soup thing, though it is funny and it shows that Aragorn can also be a comedic relief because he doesn't want to drink it, and he burns himself. But also because it reveals how old he is. 87?
87, yeah.
Yeah, so she's like, surely you're almost 90.
I think that is really important because they do bring it up in the third film. Elrond talks about to Arwen about his extended life, and just as a character, I think it's important to know that Aragorn is, not a regular human being.
Yeah, he's seen things come and go, and he's been there, done that. He's not a normal. Also, he's kind of like one of those like, I'm cool because I'm sort of elvish. I was raised by elves.
I like elvish culture better. The weeb for elves.
The weeb for elves, yeah.
Yeah, I have an elvish girlfriend. But something I'm glad they didn't keep.
Which hot take?
Is the final count after Helm's Deep. Everyone loves the scene.
Everyone loves the scene, yeah.
A couple things really I just hated about the scene. One, the counts were way too low. When
there's 10,000 Uruk-hai.
Yeah, when the Uruk-hai just get on to or bring the ladders out, right? Like it was like I have 2 already, and like Legolas like 17, right? That's the battle basically just started, and Legolas is at 17 already, right? And like before the Uruk-hai even get to the gate, right? You hear like they're like panning the shot in the battle, and you hear Gimli 23, 24, like he's like more than halfway to these numbers already, right? And that's even before he gets onto that bridge where he's killing them left and right with Aragorn, right? So you're telling me he only killed...
And his count's going to be way lower in the middle because the Uruk-hai had, take a while to come up the walls and stuff.
Yeah, so, like, no way is it the count, just like Gimli with 43 and like less 42, that's way too low with the numbers that were yelling out in the middle of the battle, right?
And considering, so let's say half the Uruk-hai survive and run into Fangorn Forest. That means 5,000 Uruk-hai, 300 soldiers, plus maybe another like 100 elves? Came to save them?
At least a few hundred elves.
Yeah.
But.
And then the Riders of Rohan, maybe another 200.
No, like I said,
it's just a ridiculous amount of Uruk-hai.
Yeah, like realistically, these numbers should have been like 83 and 82.
Or closer to 100. At least, yeah. Definitely closer to 100, yeah.
Yeah, and something else I always hated, I mean, everyone loves this and thinks it's hilarious, is when, they reveal that Gimli won and Legolas shoots the Uruk-hai that he's Gimli sitting on, right? And he was like, it's already dead. It's like he was still moving. And it's like he was twitching because my axe is in his nervous system, right? I hate the fact that they use the word nervous system.
Why? Because it's too modern? Or?
I understand that they might have had the word nervous system, that specific term back in the day, but something,
No, leave her. She just wants to bark.
No, I can't risk her pooping and peeing. She already had 3 accidents today. It's fine. Brandon Sanderson was, talking in this podcast. I love Brandon Sanderson, if you haven't. And what he teaches and says about writing. He was writing a book and he wrote the term hat trick, right? And his editor told him to get rid of the word, even though Brandon Sanderson did research and that term's been around for hundreds of years. It's the idea that it's too modern sounding, right? And it throws the reader out of the experience.
Because of modern
magic,
or
not even just modern magic. It's just too modern sounding, right?
I guess.
It's kind of like the same sense of the October thing.
I definitely agree about the nervous system thing. I just think hat trick is silly.
That was just again.
Right.
That's just what Brandon Sanderson was talking about. It's the idea when you write things, it's gotta at least still feel like that.
That realm.
Yeah, nervous system. Yeah, they could. I don't know when that term was discovered. Even if it was discovered many, many years ago, it just throws you out of the realm. It's like, what?
Or he could have said, like, spine.
He could have just said brain. Yeah. The axe was in his head.
Yeah.
He could have just said, because my axe is in his brain, you know? Something.
Or even head.
Or in his head, yeah, something like that, you know? Just that term nervous system just threw me out of the whole movie. Like, what the? Why did he say that word?
I wasn't bothered by it, but
yeah.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of other small things, like Saruman's storeroom, where they find a bunch of food, where Merry and Pippin drink water next to the ants and makes them grow a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, a lot of scenes that were nice to have, but not necessary.
Yeah, definitely. Not worth adding 45 minutes necessarily.
Yeah. There are 2 more scenes though that I really wish they did keep.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk? Which one do you want to talk about? I'll let you talk.
I'll do the last one if you want to do this one.
Yeah, I really wish they kept the Osgiliath sewers scenes. It's when they, release, or Faramir releases Frodo, Gollum, and Sam into via the sewers, and Sam said, you really showed, your quality, as a captain, which is really important, especially.
We're gonna talk about mice.
Yeah, this other extended scene, and in the 3rd movie, the idea that Faramir really wants to show his quality as a captain, or to his father, and Maral will talk about that more. And something else in this scene was Sam actually talks to Gollum. This is the first time you actually see him talking to him without being mean or, condescending in any way. He talks about, hey, Mr. Frodo didn't mean for those Rangers to hurt you. It was a complete accident. He didn't think they were going to do that.
He's just trying to save your life.
Yeah, he was trying to save your life. So no hard feelings, right? Everything's okay. And Gollum's like, lies like, yeah, that's okay. And, Sam's like, that's very decent of you, Gollum, But, he, compliments him. He talks to him.
Because Samwise is a nice guy.
Yeah, Samwise is a
He's
good
here
person.
To protect Frodo, so that's why he's extra suspicious of Gollum. But at the end of the day, he is a nice guy.
And he's trying to, in a way,
he feels bad.
Give the olive branch to Gollum.
Yeah.
So I wish they really kept that.
Because Gollum is limping.
Yeah, and hurt.
No, I agree. I wish they would have kept that. I also wish they would have kept a flashback scene.
Yeah, flashback.
Where Boromir is still alive, right before he goes over to Rivendell to go see the Fellowship and the ring. Boromir and Faramir are trying to take back Osgiliath.
No, they take back Osgiliath.
Have just taken back Osgiliath. And their father shows up, and so this scene got cut, so obviously we don't see his father in the theatrical version. Denethor. So Denethor comes in, and he's praising Boromir. He's like, oh, my son Boromir saved Osgiliath after Faramir lost it! And he talks about the whole quote of, he has to show his quality and stuff like that. And so Faramir, continues to repeat that over and over throughout this film. And, it's a great introduction to this dynamic between Boromir and Faramir, because Boromir loves his little brother, and Faramir loves his older brother, but at the same time there's this rivalry that's being forced on them by their father, and it's very sad for them. And so that's why Faramir does what he does and acts the way that he acts, and it shows a lot about his character that you miss a lot of.
And, it also shows another dimensionality to Boromir. Boromir didn't want to go. He was scared, and, he believed he might have, been consumed by the ring. Mm-hmm. Something he knew about himself, and even though he loved Gondor and everything, and his brother, and, he wasn't just some dude that got seduced by the ring.
Yeah, I'm gonna save the world with the ring.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, and so I really wish that was another reason why I wish they kept the scene.
Yeah, it adds a lot to both their characters. So, those are the extended scenes I wish they would have kept.
I apologize. I gotta run to the bathroom real quick, but if you wanna...
You want me to do trivia?
Yeah.
Alright, so, some trivia that you might not know for people who are Lord of the Rings fans. When they're leaving Osgiliath, Samwise and Frodo, after Faramir releases them and tells them, go on about your journey, Samwise is like, by rights, we shouldn't even be here, which is a nod to a deviation from the book in which Sam and Frodo never go to Osgiliath in the first place, which I didn't necessarily know about, but was a fun little fact trivia that John taught me. And my favorite scene, which every time we watch Two Towers, Aragorn frustratingly kicks a helmet after he sees that Uruk-hai have all potentially killed Merry and Pippin. And so he kicks the helmet and he screams. And I always think of the first time John and I ever watched it together, and John leans in, he goes, you know that scream was real because he broke his toes.
Yeah, he broke his toe. Yeah.
His toe, right. And so now every time we watch Two Towers, which is annual, we try to watch it every year together, John goes, did you know?
I think it's the most well-known trivia fact.
It is, yeah.
Of all the Lord of the Rings.
Everyone talks about it.
And yeah, everyone talks about it, so I just love bringing it up every time.
It also always makes me think of that Simpsons episode with the monorail. Did you know that's Mr. Burns?
Is that the monorail episode?
That is because they're in town hall. Mr. Burns has got a disguise on.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's do some quotes. You want to do the first one? I'll take it from there. And
Yeah.
we'll take turns?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to be Aragorn? And we do different characters?
Yeah, sure, that works.
Okay, go ahead.
Alright, this is at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Gimli, I'm Gimli, right? He says, toss me.
Aragorn, what?
I cannot make the jump, you'll have to toss me. Or I cannot jump the distance, you'll have to toss me. Don't tell the elf.
Aragorn, not a word.
Again, just the comedic is very iconic.
Yeah, I love Gimli in this episode or this movie film.
Yeah, you know, just shows him like in the first movie, you know, he's like nobody tosses the dwarf, right? And you know, it's character development.
Absolutely,
it really is. Yeah, that pride
and it's fun.
Yeah.
All right, Samwise, what we need is a few good taters.
All right, I'm gonna try my Gollum impression. It's not good. What's taters, precious? What's taters, eh?
Samwise, potatoes. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Alright, you can be Sam still.
Okay. Samwise is talking to Frodo. Some hard things are happening, and he goes, I wonder if we'll ever be put into songs or tales.
What?
I wonder if people will ever say, let's hear about Frodo and the Ring. And they'll say, yes, that's one of my favorite stories. Frodo was really courageous, wasn't he, Dad? Yes, my boy, the most famousest of hobbits, and that's saying a lot.
Frodo, you left out one of the chief characters, Samwise the Brave. I want to hear more about Sam.
Sam, now Mr. Frodo, you shouldn't make fun. I was being serious.
So was I.
Sam, Samwise the Brave. And that's just such a cute scene because Samwise gets this big old smile on his face. He's like,
yeah.
Me? And Frodo is, you know, genuinely happy for Samwise.
Yeah.
He loves his friend, you know. It's just a cute scene.
Yeah. He wouldn't have gone this far without him.
Yeah.
And Frodo like fully acknowledges that and admits that.
Absolutely. You be Samwise this time.
Yeah, this is my
It's
favorite
probably,
quote
yeah, everyone's favorite quote.
in, you know, all three trilogy. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't know what to, or sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. Sorry. That meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going, because they were holding on to something.
What are we holding on to, Sam?
That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
What a beautiful quote.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good one. So, yeah.
With that said, I think that concludes our podcast for this film.
Yeah. Tune in next time. Again, we try to do this weekly, but no promises. Next time we'll be talking about the final film of the trilogy.
Return of the King.
Yes, Return of the King, the most critically acclaimed and famous of the three.
A lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, most people's favorite is the third one.
I'm not going to say they're wrong. I'm not going to say they're right.
No.
Everyone's got their own opinion.
Yep.
And you'll be hearing our opinion about it shortly.
Yeah, clearly if you're listening to us for this long, you like something about our opinion, so...
Do you want to be, like I said, Baron and Luthien?
Sure.
Do you want to dress up?
I don't think I have a whole
You
outfit.
don't have anything fantastical?
No.
But we're going to the Ren Fair.
I'm not gonna buy a whole costume for one episode of the podcast.
Whole... Do it.
No.
Is
crazy.
Luthien elf?
Yeah,
right?
she's an elf, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be our next one. Like I said, hopefully we can do it next week.
I plan on it.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the cupcake. That's themed for Return of the King.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to both our Twitch and YouTube channels.
Mm-hmm.
Both I don't remember if I said this, the Bakery Park. All that info and links can be found in the description below. Yeah, if you have any, questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions for our podcast.
Compliments.
Yeah, or compliments. Yeah, leave them in the comments below.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
All right, this has been Cupcakes and Hot Takes with Maral and John. That's John.
And that's Maral.
Have a great day. Good night.
Bye.
Quick, end it.
I'm trying.